We're joined now by Tim Watts of Bama Online, and it's been an odd week. Tim, you get up on Tuesday and you're hearing suddenly Kaden Proctor might come back to Alabama, and then by Tuesday night, Kaden Proctor is putting the Michael Jordan "I'm back" meme on his Instagram story.
Hey, props for him to even know about that comeback. I'm back. You know what I mean? Not many people even know at his age know that. But yeah, it was.
He wasn't born.
You know, the thing about it is you get so numb to everything because we've covered Justice Haynes, for instance, and several times Justice Haynes or Caleb Downs would go to Georgia and where they're from, where their parents live. And sometimes they'd end up on the University of Georgia campus where they have friends and teammates and everything else. So people that would start the transfer rumor. So when we saw that Kaden Proctor was hanging out with a former teammate at the beach and they were, working out together and all that stuff, you kind of wrote, that's just friends being friends. So we kind of just went through it with everything else that was happening. But Monday, when the first time I was asked, like, have you heard anything about Kaden Proctor transferring? We went straight to, I'll dig into it. I'll look. And then yesterday I was at lunch with Andrew Bones, probably 11 a.m. And it really started to pop off. And we started going, hey, we call Charlie Potter, we call everybody, we call Travis. We say, hey, this could be something that's happening. We're preparing for it. And then a few hours later, I think the Iowa end leaked it all out that he had talked to the NIL. But it's my understanding that he went back to Iowa and the first day said, I'm out. And, of course, they tried to talk him into to staying. I mean, he's a heck of a football player, and I know he had some growing pains as a true freshman in the SEC, but so did Caleb Downs. He had growing pains. But Kaden Proctor is a big-time player. Of course, they tried to keep him, and, of course, Alabama would like to have him back. But didn't have this on the bingo card for Tuesday. Didn't have it in the middle of March. Didn't have that coming down the pipe.
Well, and it answers a question for Alabama because Alabama's going to have to replace both offensive tackles. J.C. Latham, obviously a very big NFL prospect. He's going to be drafted here pretty soon. But now they don't have to replace the left tackle. And so you did a video with Travis Reier and Andrew Bone from your site on Tuesday, and I was fascinated watching the chat. Watching the Alabama fans in the chat, where a bunch of them were like, wait, but he wasn't that good. Do we really want him back? And I'm like, guys, he was a true freshman starting in the SEC, and go watch the Georgia game. He was awesome by then.
Yeah, I think that you judge. I mean, it just depends how you sports fans can be very casual and they can watch it. I mean, truly, you see an offensive lineman, how many average fans, just a fan of a school, sees a great block or when he pulls or when he does this or picks up a bandit, a blitzer. Not many really see that, right? But they see every hold, every sack. And, the confusing part is often is the guy, you can give up a sack, looks like you give up a sack, and it wasn't actually your guy that you were responsible for. You know that better than anybody. So when the fan, you're just kind of looking at it, you don't notice the good things they do. It's like making an error in baseball or any mistake. The mistakes stand out. You can't miss them. But, yeah, anybody. Kaden Proctor could go anywhere. When he went in the portal initially, he had contact. I mean, I can't even imagine how many schools contacted him trying to get him when he originally went into the portal. But, I mean, you're getting a guy, 2 questions after Nick Saban left, 2 questions, huge questions where what are you going to do for center? What are you going to do for tackle? Got to find 2 tackles in a center. Where now you're down, if this all goes through, it's still got to go through and enroll and all that. You're down to, finding 1 tackle, which is a lot easier than finding 2 of them.
Yeah. And you may have less of a Kaden Proctor. You and I talked about this when we talked last week about how different things might be under Kalen DeBoer. Nick Saban liked his offensive linemen very big. Yeah. So Kaden Proctor and J.C. Latham started last season at about 360. And I would not be shocked if we're looking at a 330-pound Kaden Proctor when this season starts.
No, it wasn't shocking, and I've seen a lot of that with Alabama fans saying he needs to lose weight. Well, he's the exact same size as his other bookend tackle with J.C. Latham. They liked him big. They liked him bully. They liked him to push him around. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he was lighter. Again, we go back to J.C. Latham playing in that 360 range and checked into the NFL Combine at 342. I'm hoping he weighs today to see if he's even lighter because you noticed in the NFL Combine, people were talking about how great he moved and how well he looked, especially at that size, because he does look great. Proctor could easily lose that weight, but when that staff was happy with how he looked, that wasn't a huge problem. Now Kalen DeBoer and his staff might feel a little bit different, and he can change. And again, we're not talking if you're 40 up, you're thinking losing 30 pounds is a big deal. It is. We gotta starve yourself. You got to get on the elliptical. You got to do everything you can. Probably need some boost there. But I mean, if you're 19, 20 years old, 360,
you already weigh 360. Yeah, it melts right off if you start changing a couple things. Yeah.
He can twerk it. He can tweak it and twerk it. He can tweak it pretty quick.
Did you say he could twerk it? Because that now I'm fascinated by the Instagram stories.
I have so many kids in this house. The things that run through my mind are not always matching what I should say.
But he was one of those guys that really developed as the year went on. It's funny because like Pete Nakos and I have talked about how crazy the spring portal window could be. This actually may be the best player who goes into the spring portal window.
If it's not, I mean, I don't know what to expect. I think it's easy to say it's going to be crazy because that's a guaranteed fact. There's no doubt it's going to be crazy. Just the portal from Alabama's perspective, along with Proctor and Keon Saab, just the guys coming in have been crazy. And not so much the Washington guys. They knew this staff. That made perfect sense. But you have a lot of things happening now with guys at other schools. And when they get there, they might not be happy with their NIL deals after spring practice. They might not be happy with their role. Their assistant, the coach that recruited them could have left. Their position coach could have left. So the sky's the limit. We're seeing that in basketball right now. We have teams in the NCAA. Alabama got a commitment from a portal guy yesterday while they're flying to Spokane to play in the NCAA tournament. So, again, my biggest problem with all this is the calendar is a mess. That's my first thing is like fix the There's no way these things should be crossing over the way they are. But, I mean, obviously.
Well, the basketball calendar is an even dumber one. And I talked about this on the show the other day. Like, all you've got to do is move the basketball calendar to where the football portal window is at April 15th. Like the whole season's over at that point, and people won't be turning down NIT invitations. Like that's not that complicated because if the football guys can do it in December, where 2 weeks before exams, 3 weeks before they have to be in there, or well, I guess a week before exams, and then 3 weeks before they have to be on the new campus, they somehow managed to get all that done. If you did it in the second week of April, where you have a month and a half to figure out where you're going to go and 3 months to figure out how to get there, I don't think that's too big of a problem.
No, and I was giving the basketball props because they have the right idea with the signing periods. You have one before the season and you have one after the season, which I think would be smart for football to do it instead of talking about adding an additional third signing period and making it even more confusing. But this window being open right now for 45 days, I mean, you're probably struggling to keep everybody on your team right now. You got guys at the end of a bench at a really good program who want to go somewhere else, and he sees these guys commit to the bigger programs as they start to trickle out and commit. They're going to be urgent to go. So if you're playing in the Final Four, as great as that experience is, you're almost going to have to look at it. Do I play in the Final Four and miss my shot, or do I go in the portal and try to find my school? So made a lot of decisions really hard for a lot of these players.
Yeah, it's like Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or Jim Harbaugh or anybody, these coaches who've been in the playoff the last few years in football who have to recruit the portal while they're getting ready for their biggest games of the season. So yeah, it's crazy. And Tim, Tim, you're like me. You fully appreciate the beauty of the sports calendar.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, this is running on the first day of the NCAA tournament, the first day of the real NCAA tournament, the Thursday where it starts at noon Eastern time and goes past midnight Eastern time.
Yeah.
What is this day like for you?
This week has been great for me. First, I'm a Major League Baseball fan and wake up and they're playing in South Korea, the Dodgers and the Padres. But yeah, the NCAA tournament, that's the bookmark, especially because when I was younger, it was just one TV and they would just flip around the games, right? So your game you might want to see is at the bottom of the screen on the ticker. But now you have 3, 4, and I'm a multi-TV guy. There's 4 or 5 at any point going on with sports. And so that's, to me, when you get all these apps, all the Fire Sticks, everything you can do with it, it's amazing. I can watch each game or glance at each game, focus on one game at a time. But, yeah, it's one of the best times of the year. It doesn't really dampen. All the political stuff as far as NIL and everything else, the lawsuits and everything doesn't really bother me. I'm just a go with the flow guy. I'm not deterred by the NIL. I think it's just another thing we have to deal with. I imagine it's kind of, I think we're kind of going through that era when they started doing free agency in baseball. I'm a little bit of a historian, and they had a major fit when the guys could go out and shop their talent and get it. But, I mean, obviously, Proctor, I don't expect him to be a normal situation, but I don't think there's anything locked in. Like a big rumor last night was Caleb Downs was going to Alabama. There was nothing really to it other than Proctor had flipped to Alabama,
right,
or was expected to come back to Alabama. Now I'm saying flipped. That's how crazy this is.
He flipped to him once.
Yeah,
now he's flipping back.
He's flipped. Yeah, he is a flip-flop back and forth there. But you have the guys, Caleb Downs, the rumor was hot and heavy. It's so bad the collective had to come out this morning and say Caleb's locked in. Now, there was no substance behind Caleb because he was at practice, Ohio State. And at this point, you're just following the tea leaves and the clues. But again, that collective saying he's locked in, I'm not saying anything other than anything is on the table, in my opinion, right now. Anything's on the table, but what we know is where things sit now. Kaden Proctor is expected to go in the portal. That's a fact. He said it, and Caleb Downs is at Ohio State practice. But rumors, the hot and heavy thing was Twitter was on fire with the, oh boy, if what I'm being told is true, it's going to be big news. Well, yeah, something's going to happen in the next year. Something big's going to happen at every school. So that was very popular, but it was flying through. Proctor set off a domino effect of everything. And it was, even now this morning, I mean, it kind of feels, I mean, it's still surprising we're discussing it right now.
Well, and the thing, I think because of the timing of when they happened, when Kaden Proctor went into the portal from Alabama, when Caleb Downs went into the portal from Alabama, I think people just naturally attached the two things together.
Yeah.
They were both caused by the same inciting event, and that was Nick Saban retiring. But that doesn't mean they were done for the same reasons.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it's like if you're going to tag Proctor to Caleb Downs, do you not tag Amari Niblack and Isaiah Bond and everybody else, Des Ricks? They all can't come back. Julian's saying there's so many guys that went. Seth McLaughlin. I literally had a friend, I know he was kidding, but he said, what if they sent Seth to Ohio State to learn how to snap and he's coming back to Bama? And I'm like, what is wrong?
My God.
Like what?
What? That is peak SEC conspiracy theory right there.
He said it tongue in cheek, but there's zero doubt he was asking me if I thought it was possible. He's a lawyer. It's not some crazy guy.
Well, you heard Ryan Day, though. He put it on Milroe's cadence.
Ryan Day, I don't care what. There's no cadence that said snap the ball, roll the ball back to the
at my shins. Yeah.
And 30 feet to his right.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch a ton of football. You watch it when the ball is snapped early. Where does it usually hit the quarterback? Hands, face, chest.
In the hands of the face mask. Yeah.
Yes, the cadence. That's when the snap's off. It doesn't roll back there. There's no cadence for, And also another thing is, hey, we knew Seth was and I hope I hope he's great this year. I hope he does a good job. He's a good kid. He worked hard at Alabama. He dealt with a lot. But Seth was good at Alabama practices too. That's how he got the job.
He was great in certain games, like the SEC championship game. He was perfect.
Had the yips sometimes, and hopefully he got over it and moved on. But to blame the cadence, there's no hut, which means snap that between 10 feet to the right and roll it back here. There's no cadence.
Also, it's very loud in most stadiums. A lot of times it's a clap or it's a motion and not necessarily something anybody's saying.
But no matter what, unless it's hitting your inside of your thigh, that ball shouldn't have come back there like a Phil Negro knuckleball.
Well, and that's the thing. Like you said, I think Seth McLaughlin's going to be just fine because even if there are future snapping issues, he can move to guard and block very well and make lots of money playing football for a long time. Yeah. So that's not really. I just thought it was very funny that Ryan Day did chime in with that.
I mean, I think he's doing the right thing. He's probably trying to give him some confidence and say, I mean, you don't get far in life going, it's your fault. You know what I mean? You got to take the Goodwill Hunting approach with it's not your fault to really get somebody over a hump a lot of times. There's not a lot of times you can say it is you, it's not me, without people being angry at you. So I think that's the right approach. Seth's a guy, a low, a low, 3-star guy, wasn't highly recruited. I think he's overachieved up to get to that. Unfortunate with the snaps, hoping he fixes it, but I don't think Jalen Milroe was a problem for him at all.
Well, and Jalen Milroe did have some issues last year when Kaden Proctor was trying to get his sea legs. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, I can't wait to see Kaden Proctor as a sophomore. I think he's going to be a really good left tackle. And by the time he's midway through his sophomore year, when he's a junior, he's going to be one of the best in the country. So that's and now Alabama's got that again, we think.
Well, I mean, again, the thing
we'll see, but we think.
Well, I mean, if you want to start any offense, you want to start with the offensive line, right? I'm always going to believe that. I think most football purists do. They've got 2 interior offensive linemen. This is right after Nick Saban left with All-American types, Jaden and Tyler Booker. Those are All-American type interior offensive linemen. Then you had 3 spots to fill. Parker comes in, Parker Brailsford from Washington. He was second team All Pac-12 as a freshman. And then, you get Proctor to come in at left. You got 3 or 4 guys battling for right. It looks a lot easier now than it did a few days after Nick Saban left. That's for sure. And you want to get those guys. Coach Cap's got to be pretty excited. You got guys coming in, and the portal window is going to open up for other positions. And if you look at what did Alabama lose when Nick Saban left? And I'm not saying these are all apple to apple, so don't get me wrong. But they lost Caleb Downs and they got Keon Saab. They lost Proctor. They're going to get Proctor. You know what I mean? They're kind of filling those voids. They lost Seth. They're going to get Parker. So you see these guys filling in. Isaiah Bond left, and they got Jeremy Bernard. They lost the tight end, Nye Black. They got Jose Cuevas, who's getting really good reviews from the people I talked to about practice so far, which is only 1 week in. But he did average 40 yards of reception when he was at Washington. So they're kind of replacing the parts they've missed. And again, I'm not saying the only one where you can say for sure it's their equals is Proctor for Proctor. The rest of them, it's your debate. But a lot of people are high on, and I like saying that, Proctor to Proctor. They sounds
like an 80s detective show.
It does. Sounds like it'd be a great 80s middle infield, Proctor to Proctor to
Proctor to Proctor to Proctor.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Or really bad law firm that's it's going to end up in federal court. But yeah, you have all this stuff happening and filling those voids. And I still expect April to be, because the one thing about Alabama is they're still getting to know their roster, right? They've had a week with them to see them in pads on the field. What works, what doesn't work. And you know what? Some people won't like the new system. Some people will love the new system. So there's a lot of jockeying going back and forth. But the one thing I am pretty confident about, I think Kalen DeBoer and his staff are going to be able to field a good roster when it comes August. I think they're going to have a lot of talent on the field, especially from the needs they feel they have, which is more important than what, any ranking or anything else. Are they filling the needs they feel they've got?
Yeah, it is going to be fascinating to watch. And there is a lot of moving parts that we'll see throughout April and May.
He's been a busy guy if you look at it. If you look at Kalen DeBoer, from the guys who left to Ryan Williams to possibly Kaden Proctor, if you lay out the timeline, he's been an active fellow. He's had a lot going on there recruiting wise, with the prep ranks, and also with the and also another thing he did, he kept a lot of those other transfers like Damani Jackson. So they were able to keep some talent that could have, went back in the portal as well.
Well, we're going to find out what that roster looks like exactly. I can't wait to see the A-Day game and what they – yeah. I mean, just to see them on the field with somebody not Nick Saban leading them is going to be really interesting.
No, it's going to be fantastic to see something new. And I think when Nick Saban retired, and I asked this on the board last night, I said, I wanted a grade. Where do you think Alabama stands on a scale of 1 to 10, 70 days after Nick Saban retired? What grade would you give them? I mean, not factoring in, I know they got to play games and all that stuff, but where do you feel University of Alabama is 70 days after Nick Saban retired? That's what I asked. And I think the reviews have been pretty good. I think you've got to be pretty positive. Lost some guys, got some guys doing the right things, a lot of positive energy. I didn't expect it to be sitting in this well. If I'd have known about the NIL, I for sure would be covering tennis or something. When he retired, I'd own a tennis site. I'd be ready to go.
Well, I think you're doing just fine, and Bama Online doing great right now, especially with the news that Kaden Proctor is returning. Tim Watts, thank you so much.
Anytime, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.